Well, to take it a step further, we still debating on whether going to college is permissible or not. And I mean, to be honest with you, there's very few people who have become successful without going to school and getting a proper education. Very few people. But at the end of the day, if we're still debating 20 years into quote-unquote Qur'an and Sunnah or Salafiyah or whatever term you want to use, if we 20 years into that and we're still debating over whether or not going to college is something that is permissible or admissible, then what are we doing? I mean, what do you expect us to do? Work at Walmart for the rest of our lives? Because going to college is haram? And at the end of the day, while we buy into that, college is haram, African-American Muslims, while we buy into that, every other community is going to college. You have scholars who send their children to America from Saudi Arabia to go to college and to come back and to establish the economic system in their country. To take their rightful place as the future leaders of their society, while we here, right here in America, still debating over whether or not going to college is permissible or not. And so when we start talking about having an economic base or having, economic stability in our communities, I think that the starting point for that is education. Because the fact of the matter is that it's not that we don't have money. We haven't been educated how to spend money. That's our problem. For the Eid, many of us did not pay the zakat al-fitr, but yet and still we went and bought a new pair of sneakers, a new izar, a new this, a new that, and we don't even know how to calculate the zakat al-fitr properly. We're major in the minor and minor in the major. So when we're talking about economics, we're talking about education, we're talking about family structure, these are all, the points of interest that should be, important to the leadership in the community. So let's talk about leadership. Let's talk about the Islamic leadership in our community. Why hasn't the Islamic leadership in our community, and I'm not talking about imams, I'm talking about leadership, because you don't have to have the title of imam to be a leader. My title as Imam Shadid means nothing. I was an imam before I became an imam. Umar radiallahu anhu was Amirul Mu'mineen before he was Amirul Mu'mineen. Title don't mean nothing. When I say leadership in Islam, I'm talking about those who have influence in the community, those who are active in the community, and those who stand for something in the community. That is what I'm talking about, not just referring to the imams. So why hasn't the imams, or why hasn't the leadership in the Islamic community been as effective as they could have been? What are we lacking in our leadership? Let's talk about that. Yusuf, since you probably one of the younger imams and administrators and activists on the panel, let's start from a younger perspective. What do you see to be the Islamic leadership's problem that we have not made much success in the past 20 years?
I think definitely as a whole we are stagnated, meaning that we're not progressing and moving forward and moving the community forward because we failed to actually assess the needs of our community in the year 2014.
Good point.
And we're still piggybacking off of the efforts of our forefathers, our fathers and grandfathers, that had to deliver Islam in a different way. And they had less, but they were doing a lot more. And today we have a lot more and we're doing a lot less. And the brother told me last night when we was preparing for the Eid, Hajj Talib, that 50 years ago they had 15 people for the Eid. 15 people for the Eid. right? And now, alhamdulillah, we have thousands, right? But it was still a different environment, right? So what are the needs of the Muslims today, right? And another thing is that a lot of times as leaders, we're bickering about things that have passed 10 years ago or 15 years ago.
Absolutely.
And it's mainly because of the administrators. Well, when you look out into the congregation, you have new Muslims that have embraced Islam, and you have, a new generation of Muslims that are unaware of these issues that took place 10 to 15 years ago, right? And we act like, they are aware of that.
Well, Yusuf, let me go back to the point that you made. I think that the reason why there's this constant bickering amongst the leadership, amongst the Muslims, is because there was no closure. There's no closure. When husband and wife separate, right? And they separate on good terms, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us to. فَأَمْسِكُوهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ أَوْ سَرِّحُوهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Take the woman back in kindness or let her go in kindness. How do husband and wife separate in kindness when there's closure? When there's closure. When someone says, you know what, I was wrong. The part that I played in this, I'll take full responsibility for it. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you with another spouse that will be 10 times as better as I was to you. May Allah subhanahu I harbor no resentment towards you. I harbor no rancor towards you, nothing. That's closure. And I think that in order for the imams and the Muslim leadership to move forward, there has to be closure. People have to admit to what they were responsible for in making the communities that they are today. But to totally dismiss that and not talk about it, sweep it under the prayer rug and just move on, that we will never be able to heal as a community because there has to be closure. There has to be closure. And the point that you brought up about, we living in 2014 and imams and communities are bickering about stuff that people who are taking Shahada today have no clue what you're talking about. And I remember when I first became a Muslim and I started to attend a particular masjid, I had people in my ear saying, oh, the imam is this and the imam is that and you should stay away from this. And I'm saying to myself, all I'm trying to do is stay away from going back to kufr. That's my biggest concern right now. My biggest concern is not whether the imam is on and off. My biggest concern right now is trying to stay away from going back to the streets, stay away from going back to kufr. So yes, the assessment of the communities is definitely an issue for us, that we haven't assessed our communities. We don't know what the communities need, so therefore we assume that what we're doing is the right thing. And as Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu said, كَمْ مِنْ مُرِيدٍ مِنْ خَيْرٍ لَمْ يَبْلُغْهُ. How often does a person intend to do good, but actually never does it? Your intentions is good, you mean well, but you never did it. We have another guest that has, alhamdulillah, graced us with his presence, Brother Mustafa al-Mu'tazil. Inshallah ta'ala, if you can kind of just chime in here on this whole piece of what are we missing in terms of Islamic leadership, that we haven't made much progress. I'm not going to say we haven't made any progress, because we have made progress, but it hasn't been the type of progress that we could have made. The Prophet ﷺ built a whole community in 10 years. Decade after decade after decade has passed us by, and we have seen very little thamarat, very little fruits. Elaborate on that a little bit, inshallah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على التمان الأكملان على خير الخلق أجمعين وعلى آله وأصحابه المنصاسبين ونهجه وسنة بسنة يوم الدين أما بعد. جزاك الله خيرا وبارك الله فيك. Appreciate this auspicious panel of people allowing me to sit with them and discuss such pertinent topics. I think as it pertains to leadership, the reality is, man, what I've come to accept as it pertains to my own leadership is that many of the leaders that we have, not all, because I don't want to offend anybody, but many of the leaders that we have are leaders by default.
Elaborate.
What I mean by default is just the person that we have that's the best person at the time. We haven't invested enough time and energy to understand, like the brother stated earlier, all of the social nuances, as well as all of the metaphysical aspects of who we are as a people. And when you begin to talk about building community, there's open wounds that are still present.
Absolutely.
There are things that have not been spoken about or addressed. And there's one thing that is persisting in our community specifically, and that is that we have allowed all of our investments to be predicated on belief in individuals.
Absolutely.
And you will never find a human being being traded on the stock market, because humans die. And we have value as long as we're living, except that we leave something behind that's going to persist from our actions. And so when you look to the history of Islam, and when it was most prominent, it was when people held fast to those fundamental teachings that affected the human experience. That affected the human experience on a global level, although many of the people could not understand the magnificence or the greatness of the world at that time. And that's why the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and Ashab was so successful. And that's why Abdullah bin Mas'ud, he said, "Man kana mustannan falyastanna biman qad mat, min al-hayy la tu'minu an fitna." Whoever seeking a way of success, you want to be successful? You want to find a way? Then look to the way of those people who have died. Because barely those people who are living, there's no guarantee that they're going to be free from the trials and the tribulations that they're faced with.
Good point, Brother Mustafa. Brother Hassan, from some of the more seasoned Muslims, what do you see to be the problem with the leadership in Islam in our communities that has allowed us to see very little fruits in the past 15 to 20 years?
Well, first I would start out by looking at the life of the Prophet, because what I've seen is totally contrary to the life of the Prophet. One, they bring division. Two, too much self-interest. I'm just a Muslim. I'm nobody's leader. People don't trust you when they think you have some ulterior motive. You can't be a leader in Islam with an ulterior motive. The leadership in Islam are servants to the community.
Absolutely.
We're not the community. We try to assist the community in moving further. And if we have an idea or we have influence and we think that maybe Allah has blessed us with an idea, we can then go to the community to get the community's support. And if possible, try to persuade the community that maybe this is the right direction. But if the community believes that whatever you want to do is about preservation of your own self-interest, you won't get no support. See, Allah will choose the leadership. People who work in the community, those are the leaders. There are a lot of people, they know all the Qur'an, they recite all the hadiths, they know everything. But let's look at their deeds. Because no matter who you are, including myself, if you're in leadership and you're not bringing people together, then something is wrong with your Islam.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. The Prophet ﷺ, his whole mission was built on uniting people. And unity and brotherhood in Islam are non-negotiable. And I think I got that from you, Brother Hassan. It's non-negotiable. You don't have to like me. That's cool. Because I understand why you don't like me. Because you don't like me because you don't like you. And I'm okay with that. I understand your issue, your dilemma. When you look at me, I'm a reflection of you, and you hate you, so you automatically hate me. Or the other issue, and that is your success is my failure. When I look at you and I believe that you're successful, I automatically shrink, believing that I'm a failure. And this all has its roots and where we come from as a people. And we haven't addressed those issues. We haven't sat down, we haven't had discussions. And this is why these type of discussions, they are healthy discussions. You may not like what is happening, but the fact of the matter is that it's happening. People may look at the Mardiyah Show and say, oh, he's innovating, he's doing this or he's doing that. Wallah al-Azim, if two people are the same, then one of you is irrelevant. So if I come and I'm doing the same thing that the Imams did before me, then what is my purpose? What is the purpose? I'm irrelevant because you didn't need me to come along and do the same thing that the Imams 20 years who preceded me 20 years ago have been doing. And we have to get out of this state of complacency that what we have and where we are is enough. It's not enough. It's never enough. We can never reach a point where we feel like we've done enough for Islam, we've done enough for the communities. I saw Brother Imam Ali Jabir. What do you see to be the problem with the Islamic leadership in our communities and the solution to that problem?
Assalamu alaikum. Eid Mubarak, Qur'an wa antum bikhair. What I've heard basically is my view, but I have some nasiha. I have some advice. When the Muslim Ummah, the leaders, is able to reduce their ego to 0 degree level, or if they're able to give up that selfish power for a greater power, meaning the Ummah, because as you said before, it is non-negotiable. Allah says, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ كنتم أعداء فألف بين قلوبكم فأصبحتم بنعمته إخوانا. This is it. Allah says, hold fast to his rope and be not divided. This is an order from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we as Muslims, in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, فألف بين قلوبكم. This is a divine ordinance from Allah that He joined our hearts together. We were enemies among ourselves. It was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who made us brothers. So if we can give up this selfish power, myself, and I had to give it up, Sheikh Shadid. I had brothers. I had to fight my way up and I had to fight my way down. So I had to find some middle ground. Right? We had to come together. Otherwise, I was going to win alone.
Right.
So alhamdulillah, as you see around us, this is the efforts of leadership. This is the efforts of trying to move forward into the 21st century as we should. Jazakumullah khairan, that's my view, and maybe it's up. Allah Sheikh continue.
Same question.
I think all these issues is very valuable, but we need really more communication. We need to sit more. Probably the imams and probably the leaders of the Masajid, they should get together and target these issues one by one and study it more. Don't just run over it and just go and just talk about it. And we need to find a solution for each of these problems. These problems, if we don't find a solution for it, we just talk about it. We will not solve anything. We could talk today and leave, and that's it. But we really need to get more meetings. We need to get together more, organize ourselves more, and talk about all these issues. And find a solution for each issue. If we target these issues one by one and we start to find solutions, alhamdulillah, we don't have no problems. We could solve it. But if we don't work on it, we're not going to solve anything.
And one of the greatest things before we wrap up that will help us solve some of these problems is for the leadership to open the door and let some of the younger people in the community get involved. How is it that we send these brothers to school? We send these brothers to the university, whether Islamic university or whether, in an academic environment, to go learn certain trades, certain skill sets, and then come back and be irrelevant in the community. And this is a lot of times this happens because everybody fighting for their own relevance. Because if I let you come to the masjid and give a lecture, or if I let you, take over this department or this committee, then that means that I'm no longer relevant. And to be honest with you, the sign of a good leader is to make himself irrelevant. That is your job, to become irrelevant. It's to put everybody else to the forefront while you take a step back. A good leader is a good delegator. The leader delegates. He don't take on those responsibilities himself. The Prophet ﷺ, he used to dispatch his Sahaba, his companions. You go to Yemen and give da'wah. You go here and do this. You go here and you be in charge of this. He didn't take on these tasks by himself, and you'll find in many communities the imam, he's doing everything. He's an imam, he's a father, he's a husband, he's a counselor, he's this, he's that. And as leaders, it's not my job as a leader to know everything, but it's my job as a leader to know everyone so that I know who to direct you to. That's my job. My job is not to know everything. Don't ask me a question, then when I say I don't know, Allah knows best, you say, well, you're the imam or you're the student of knowledge. Okay, what does that mean? A man traveled from Spain and asked Imam Malik, rahimahullah ta'ala, 38 questions. Imam Malik only answered 6 questions, and the other 32, he said, oh, I don't know, Allah knows best. The man said, I traveled from Spain to ask you, you're Imam Malik, the Imam of Medina. What am I going to tell the people in Spain when I go back to Spain? He said, go back and tell the people in Spain, Imam Malik don't know, Allah knows best. What else are you going to tell them? So my job as a leader is not to know everything, but to know everyone in the community that has a skill set that will be an asset to what is necessary. To be honest with you, many imams are not qualified to do marital counseling. I'm just being dead serious with you. Many imams in the communities are not qualified to do marriage counseling, are not qualified for family counseling. So when you're having problems with a maladaptive child, he doesn't listen, disrespectful, and you come to the imam and you say, brother imam, I need you to talk with me and my 16-year-old daughter, my 16-year-old son. The first thing the imam does is say, Akhi, you need to fear Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Qur'an, and obey your parents, and quote every ayah in the Qur'an, every hadith about being obedient to the parent. Most of the time when children commit sin, or most of us when we commit sin, we know it's wrong. That's not the problem. The problem is not that we don't know it's halal or haram. That's not the problem. So you quoting every ayah in the Qur'an to me is not going to solve the problem. Sometimes you have to tap into a deeper side of the person. When the young man came to the Prophet ﷺ, was said to zina, asked the Prophet ﷺ permission to commit zina, to commit fornication. He said, I can do everything Islam tells me to do, but just give me permission to just fornicate. The Prophet ﷺ, did he say, astaghfirullah, that's haram? That you can tell, why would you ask me a question like that? No. He asked the man, he said, I left home. He said, do you have a mother? The man said, yes. He said, وَتُحِبُّ ذَلِكَ لِأُمِّكَ قَالَ وَكَذَلِكَ النَّاسِ لَهُمْ أُمَّهَاتُهُمْ وَلَا يُحِبُّونَ ذَلِكَ لِأُمَّهَاتِهِمْ. He said, do you have a mother? The man said, yes. He said, would you like somebody to fornicate with your mother? He said, no. He said, well, okay, people have mothers and they don't want people to fornicate with their mothers. He said, do you have a sister? Do you have a sister? He said, yes. He said, would you want somebody to fornicate with your sister? He said, no. He said, well, then likewise, people have sisters and they don't want people to fornicate with their sisters. Do you have an aunt? He said, yes. He said, would you like somebody to fornicate with your aunt? He said, no. He said, okay, well, people have aunts and they don't want people to fornicate with their aunts. He got it. He got it. He never quoted one ayah. He never quoted anything. He tapped into the commonsensical side of the individual. People have common sense. You just have to tap into it. We live in a society and environment where your common sense has been dumbed down. We don't use common sense because everything else does the thinking for you. Your cell phone does the thinking for you, right? You have an app on it. There's an app for everything, even an app for thinking, right? There's an app for thinking. You don't have to think anymore. There's an app for that. So these are the things that, inshallah ta'ala, that we need to concentrate on. These are the discussions that we need to have. We need to have more of these discussions. When we sit and we meet as leaders of the community, we have to have an agenda. Don't come to a meeting, wallah al-azim, I have a principle. I don't come to no meeting unless there's an agenda. If you don't have a list of things, topics that you want to discuss, how much time do you want to take on each topic, I'm not coming to your meeting, period. Because we want to sit around and talk about this and that, and before you know it, 3 hours went by and we didn't accomplish anything. As the Prophet said, we just keep going around and around and around in a circle. I'm not doing that. You want to be solution oriented, there's an act for that. There's a protocol for that. And inshallah ta'ala, these discussions we need to have more. And inshallah ta'ala, I want to thank my guests for coming on the show. And I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow, any tidbit of information that you brothers have put forward to be a benefit. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept from us our niyat, our good intention, and to accept from us what we have put forward for His religion. Because at the end of the day, that's all we got to look forward to on the Day of Judgment. The only thing that we have to look forward to on the Day of Judgment is what you have put forward for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's need. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Qur'an, وَلَا تُقَدِّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُمْ, that you don't put forth anything from yourselves except that you will find it with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yawm al-qiyamah. Even a mustard seed of khair, of good, you will find it with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So hopefully, inshallah ta'ala, this wasn't to beat anyone down, this was to open up a discussion. My job, as I said earlier, is to stir the pot. Is to get the discussion going. And hopefully, inshallah ta'ala, the brothers that are like-minded can take it to the next level. We want to thank everybody for your attention, and we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless this effort, bless you all for putting together this Eid. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to place it in your scales of good on a day that you will need it more than anything else. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathira. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
I would say, unfortunate condition of our community is that we take wives and we pass wives along. We don't necessarily share our sexual history, so you may have one wife now, bring another one in, no dialogue or discussion about the health of the other. So you're now introducing another set of organisms, as it were, into your family anyway, and then the potential for these other illnesses. So our unwillingness to have our leadership discuss this with us,